What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is the Cocky Comrade, and on this channel I do everything filmmaking. I do color grading, I shoot with my Blackmagic Pocket 4K, and in this video I want to talk about the experience using this camera. It's been a month now since I've had my hands on this camera, and yeah, I got this camera as an upgrade from the Sony a6400. And yeah, I just want to share my thoughts on this camera and just talk about some things that I think are good with this camera and things you should know if you are getting this camera. This is not going to be like a full lengthy review, but then just from a filmmaker's perspective, like what you would expect from this camera and things you should know. So I kind of made a tiny list here of things that we would want to look into. So yeah, the first thing I want to talk about in this Blackmagic Pocket 4K camera is the autofocus. So yeah, I've been out shooting a lot of things. Currently in my background, there is a video showing on my monitor. And yeah, basically I shot that video at the gym. It was a boxing session, and basically I didn't have to use autofocus. I was manual focusing the whole time. And yeah, I kind of realized with almost all the lenses that I had on this camera, the autofocus seemed not to work. So I'm just taking it that the camera doesn't have autofocus. So if you are getting this camera, you should bear in mind that you'd have to be manual focusing the whole time. And with my experience manual focusing on this camera, it's been smooth. I didn't really think I would catch up and it would be smooth, but then when I got my hands on it and actually went out to shoot, it was amazing. And as of now, I really love shooting manual focus than doing autofocus, So if you're getting this camera, just know that autofocus is long gone. You would have to manual focus now as a filmmaker. And then secondly too, I want to talk about the in-body stabilization. So yeah, on this camera I realized it doesn't have in-body stabilization of any form. So if you need to do something that needs like really huge in-body stabilization, then you should look to attaching lenses that have stabilization built directly into them. I think I've used the Canon 24 to 105 EF lens on this camera. That lens has great stabilization, and yeah, it worked in most cases. Like, it was smooth, I loved it. But then the other thing too is that the lenses I own that I use to shoot things most often don't have in-body stabilization, and almost all the footage that I've shot on this camera, all the things I've shot for the period of 1 month so far, I really didn't need that stabilization because I'm for some reason I'm just good with my handheld shots. And yeah, I would probably do a video on this channel explaining how you as a filmmaker can get those smooth handheld shots with this camera. Yeah, I would love to talk in depth about that. If you're interested in that, let me know in the comments, and I will happily do a video explaining how I gained those smooth footages. So yeah, this camera doesn't have in-body stabilization. You should probably look into lenses that have stabilization, or if you're going handheld, you move swiftly, like you pay attention to what you're shooting and you just don't move anyhow. And also this camera does have something they called the gyro data. So basically when you're moving your camera around, there's this one device in there built into the camera that kind of records how you are moving. So afterwards in Davinci Resolve, you can tell the program to stabilize your footage using this this gyro data, and that gyro data is only available if you shoot in B-raw. So if you shoot any other thing like ProRes, you won't get that. I'm just realizing holding this microphone is actually heavier than I thought. All right, so that was about in-body stabilization. Now let's talk about ergonomics. How easy is it to carry this camera and things like that? So first things first, I came from the Sony a6400 to this camera, and the first thing you notice is that this camera is huge. Like, it has lots of moving parts. Like, I mean, when you buy the camera, you just get the body and nothing else. So I mean, by the time you rig out this camera by attaching an external battery solution, attaching a microphone, attaching an SSD, attaching an on-camera monitor, it's huge. So yeah, coming from the Sony a6400, if you are getting this camera, you should know that it's going to be huge, and it's not one of those cameras you carry on a low profile outside. I mean, when you carry this in out, everybody's going to know that you're shooting something expensive. Now, moving on from ergonomics, I want to talk about storage. So yeah, I've kind of shot a large variety of things on this camera since I've gotten my hands on it. So if you are looking to get this camera, you should invest into a lot of storage options, because this camera, the footage that it produces are basically huge. Like, they are really huge because of the amount of data that it stacks into them. And you might get away by using the compressions that you have on this camera. So on this camera, you have a large variety of compressions that you can use depending on what you're shooting. Now, what these compressions really mean is how much data you are willing to capture for that particular video that you are shooting. So I mean, on daily basis, things that I shoot, like this YouTube video, yeah, all that data, I don't need that data because this is just a basic YouTube video, so I can get away using a 12:1 compression. But then if I'm shooting client work that I know that, okay, I might be slapping on some heavy grading or doing some VFX compositions, then I could probably look into doing a very high a very low compression, like 5:1, where my file sizes are now huge and you could be clocking into like the 200 gigabytes for, like, let's say 30 minutes of footage. And that's really a lot. Like, it's not just about shooting those large sizes, but then when you shoot it, you have to store it. So I mean, if you are getting this camera, you should invest into a lot of storage options. So yeah, that's about the storage options. This camera really produces very large files. So moving on to the codec, and then I mean the log stuffs that are built into this camera. So on this camera, you do get the B-roll, which is the black magic raw. Now, almost everything I've shot on this camera, I've shot a music video, I have shot almost like 4 boxing events, and I've shot like my own spec things. And yeah, everything I've done on this camera is basically in B-roll, and just a tiny section of them being in ProRes. And yeah, I think it has held up really well. So with the B-roll, you have lots of flexibilities. Like, I can go into my footage later on, and let's say I was in a run and gun situation where I didn't have much time to like do my right white balancing or get my exposure right. Provided I didn't go past the limits of B-roll, I can always fix it in post. And like, as a filmmaker, that's like a very huge advantage to me. So this camera can also shoot ProRes, and then, but then the limitation with ProRes is that when you shoot ProRes, a lot of those in post flexibilities that you get, they are almost stripped away. Like, you can't get them in post. So if you got something wrong on set and you shot it in ProRes, I mean, it's a dub. Like, you can't get back those details. It's gone. Maybe you'd have to reshoot. And yeah, so I'm done with this list. For my overall thoughts on this camera and what I think it should be for, who this camera is for and who it's not for. So if you're just looking to do like a YouTube video or just a vlog kind of style, like a quick run and gun situation, this camera isn't for you. Like, this is a cinema camera, and cinema cameras are meant to be used in controlled environments. You can't take this thing like in a run and gun situation. It might work, but then if you ask me, it's just not worth it, the stress, because this doesn't even have autofocus. And just imagine you looking into the camera and realizing that all the footage you shot the whole time was out of focus. Like, even me, I'm just doing this, like just me in the studio here trying to record this, and the amount of time it took me to manual focus and be sure that I'm even in frame here. I have my external monitor here, which I use, which I occasionally check to see, okay, am I still in focus? But because I'm not moving too much, I don't really care about that. So yeah, if you are looking to do like quick things like a YouTube video, this camera isn't for you. I would advise you get other options like the Sony A6400, which has the HLG profile that I also talk about, how to color grade and maximize and get the best out of it. So yeah, this camera is not for you. But then if you're a filmmaker who's looking to upgrade from, let's say, this mirrorless cameras, you want to start looking into doing something professional, I think this camera is a great start for the amount of money that you pay for it. And I actually got this very cheap from a colleague filmmaker, so I mean, that means a lot to me. So with this camera, it's a good starter for a filmmaker. You can shoot all those spec projects, those indie films and feature films on this camera, and you will do good. So yeah, overall, I think this camera is great for the price. It's amazing. It produces amazing pictures and it's very easy to grade. I also do have videos about how to grade Blackmagic raw footage on this channel. So if you like my vibe and you kind of flow with the things I'm saying, please do make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and check out my other videos. And I'll do make sure that I post the videos that I captured with this camera on this channel, and be sure to leave your comments and reviews. I would love to read them. And till another video, I love you guys and peace out.